The report says at least 2 calls were made from the Trump White House to, quote, convey the president's anger regarding Kimmel's monologues and jabs. In other words, President Karen demanded to speak to my manager, but he wanted me to do it for nothing. I wonder what it was specifically that sparked his Trumper tantrum. The father of hotel gyms. He said, maybe someone put a gym in a building somewhere, but no one did it at the scale of my father. He's saying that his father, the father of the hotel gym, is a guy who's never stepped inside one.
What do you do when a late-night comedian makes fun of your dad? If you're Donald Trump Jr., you call the cops. But why did Jimmy Kimmel's joke hit so hard this time? Stay tuned to unpack the bizarre drama that led to Don Jr. dialing 911 over a punchline. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Imagine being so rattled by a joke that your instinct is to grab your phone and dial 911. That's exactly where we are with Don Jr., the unofficial poster boy for taking things way too seriously. It seems late-night comedian Jimmy Kimmel struck a nerve so deep that Jr. decided the appropriate response wasn't a witty clap back, but an actual emergency call. Now, let's pause here for a second. What did he think would happen?
The first time Donald Trump ever tries to stop someone from talking about him on television, and it's me. Usually when he wants somebody to stop talking about him, he pays them $130,000. I had like 80 texts when I woke up sending me this article from Rolling Stone. It says, Trump White House pressured Disney to censor Jimmy Kimmel. Now, Disney is the company that owns ABC, our network, and Jimmy Kimmel is who fathered Eric and Don Jr. would know how to handle jokes, but I guess not. The article says news of these calls spread around the corridors of power in Washington. Wow, what a plot twist.
Were the police supposed to rush to Kimmel's studio and slap a pair of cuffs on him for dangerous levels of sarcasm? It's hard to say if this is more ridiculous or hilarious, but with the Trump family, we're probably somewhere in the overlap. So what exactly caused this over-the-top reaction? It all started when Jimmy Kimmel took on Trump's ongoing fraud trial during one of his monologues. With his usual mix of biting humor and deadpan delivery, Kimmel mocked Trump's courtroom antics, and one particularly bizarre self-defense claim. Trump had said, and I promise this is real, that he considered himself an artist when it came to real estate. An artist, the same man who slapped gold-plated letters on every building he could find, likened himself to Picasso with a penthouse. Kimmel, as expected, didn't let that one slide. He riffed about Trump sketching buildings in crayon while pretending not to notice the tidal wave of legal trouble crashing down on him. Now, Don Jr., ever the loyal son, didn't find this amusing. In fact, it appears he found it so unfunny that he couldn't simply let it go. Instead, he vented online in a tantrum that, let's be honest, was not entirely out of character for him. Then came the kicker. Reports surfaced that Jr. had reportedly contacted authorities over the matter. Yes, rather than responding to a comedian with, say, an actual argument, or even his own attempt at humor, he went straight to the police. If this doesn't make you picture an upset kid running to the teacher because someone said mean words on the playground, I don't know what will. But this isn't just about one overblown reaction to a late-night joke. For the Trump family, hypersensitivity seems to be a generational talent. They've long had a habit of turning criticism, sometimes legitimate, sometimes comedic, into personal affronts requiring immediate action. It's like they're allergic to satire. Studies have even shown how political leaders with authoritarian tendencies tend to struggle with comedy. Why? Because jokes strip down the aura of power that they've worked so hard to cultivate. By mocking Trump's reality show bluster and questionable grasp on facts, comedians like Kimmel poke holes in the carefully constructed image he's tried to uphold. But here's where it gets even funnier. Instead of quieting down the jokes, Don Jr.'s reaction added gasoline to the fire. Jimmy Kimmel didn't just laugh off the drama, he doubled down. In his next monologue, Kimmel addressed the fiasco, casually saying, "If comedy is a crime, lock me up." That one line, delivered with his trademark smirk, flipped the script. Suddenly, the whole debacle wasn't just about one joke. It was about the absurdity of trying to police comedy itself. Kimmel knew the moment was too good to waste, and he kept riding the wave, much to the delight of the audience. This response highlights another dimension of what makes the Trump family's sensitivity so counterproductive. Their overreactions don't just fail to silence critics, they amplify the jokes. Moments like this give comedians, and honestly anyone with an internet connection, even more material to work with. The more Don Jr. flails in outrage, the more attention the original joke gets. It's like trying to fan away smoke while someone throws logs into the fire. And let's not forget, this isn't an isolated case. The Trumps have a well-documented history of over-the-top responses to perceived slights. Remember the time Trump angrily tweeted about Alec Baldwin's SNL impression, calling it terrible and unfunny? Or when he tried to get Disney-owned ABC to reprimand Kimmel over his bad ratings? For a family that insists on being taken seriously, they seem to spend an awful lot of time and energy giving comedians free press. At the end of the day, Kimmel's joke wasn't even particularly unusual for late-night comedy. Public figures, especially political ones, get roasted every night across multiple networks. What makes this incident so fascinating is how it fit perfectly into the ongoing narrative of the Trump family's deep discomfort with humor, criticism, or anything that challenges their carefully curated image. Imagine calling the cops every time someone made a joke you didn't like. Most of us couldn't get through a single Thanksgiving dinner without causing a national emergency. It's safe to say this won't be the last time we see a Trump meltdown over late-night satire. And if anything, episodes like this prove just how much mileage comedians can and will get out of it. Because as long as the Trumps keep responding this way, people like Kimmel will have endless material to keep us entertained. What's funnier than a joke about Trump? Watching him and his family completely lose it over one. Humor might seem harmless to most, but in Trump's world, a punchline is treated like a personal vendetta. This isn't just a passing observation either. Trump has been feuding with guys like Jimmy Kimmel for years. Back in his presidency, his obsession with ratings extended far beyond his old TV show. He repeatedly attacked Kimmel, calling him foolish and needing Disney, which owns ABC, to intervene. At one point, he even told White House officials to call Disney to complain about Kimmel's monologue. Yes, you heard that right. The President of the United States, armed with control over nuclear codes, directed government employees to deal with late-night jokes. If you ever doubted Trump's thin skin, this is Exhibit A. Of course, Jimmy Kimmel has had no problem returning fire. He's one of Trump's favorite targets, and honestly, you can tell he wears the hate like a badge of honor. Kimmel has built entire segments around poking at Trump's ego, from mocking his policy flip-flops to riffing on his infamous spray tan hue. But Trump's inability to let things go always makes these situations worse. Instead of ignoring it like most public figures might, the former president fuels the fire, turning every harmless dig into a national headline. It's like watching someone punch themselves in the face and then blame the mirror. But it's not just the comedians calling him out. The internet hasn't exactly been kind to Trump either. Take the now iconic Taco Man meme, for example. Now, if you aren't familiar, taco started as Wall Street slang, short for Trump always chickens out. Naturally, the internet ran with it, slapping together photoshopped clips of Trump as a salsa dancer and pairing them with parody songs. It was pure meme gold, capturing Trump's habit of making bold claims only to walk them back later. But here's what made it even better. Trump couldn't let it slide. When a reporter actually repeated the term taco during a press conference, Trump went on a full-blown tirade. It was almost as if he thought he could strong-arm the memes into submission. Spoiler alert, he couldn't. This kind of reaction isn't just a PR blunder. It's practically an instruction manual for how not to handle satire. Historically, humor has always been one of the most effective tools for breaking down power structures and exposing hypocrisy. Leaders who consider themselves untouchable turn into punchlines with a well-aimed joke. Trump's response to the Taco Man joke is a perfect example of how satire can strip someone of their carefully curated image. A man who prides himself on being tough and infallible can look hilariously fragile when a meme sets him off. Comedy doesn't just poke holes in that armor, it shreds it entirely. But there's a reason Trump and his family can't deal with this kind of humor. Comedy undercuts their biggest strength, the illusion of control. When you make fun of someone like Trump, you're chipping away at his narrative. He needs to be seen as powerful and larger than life for his brand to work. But a joke, especially a good one, flips that narrative upside down. Instead of a commanding presence, memes and monologues turn him into Orange Turd or Donnie Diapers, nicknames that feel impossible for a man in his position to live down. If you think about it, a meme can sometimes do more damage than a fact check because while facts might go over people's heads, jokes linger. They get shared, retweeted, and before you know it, Trump's legacy is part courtroom drama, part internet comedy sketch. What's even more ironic is how these overreactions don't silence the jokes, they amplify them. When Trump goes ballistic about Kimmel or about being called Taco Man, it's like handing comedians the perfect setup. Kimmel, in particular, knows exactly how to handle these moments. When Trump recently threw yet another fit about him, Kimmel not only kept the jokes coming, but gleefully leaned into them during his next monologue. His fans ate it up, and the internet followed suit. It's also important to point out how Kimmel and the comedians aren't the only ones taking advantage of Trump's sensitivity. The public thrives on these moments. They turn into viral TikToks, meme compilations, and endless content loops. What started as just another late-night joke often snowballs into million-view viral culture. It's this kind of massive audience engagement that puts Trump and anyone in his orbit in a difficult position. The more they complain, the worse it gets. The jokes don't go away, they evolve. And that's the thing. Trump's efforts to shut down critics using his influence keep backfiring. Remember when he tried to use White House channels to target Kimmel? Turns out that only created more coverage about the jokes in question. It's a self-perpetuating cycle where attempts to control the narrative only reinforce the ridicule. It's almost as if Comedy 101 should be required reading for anyone stepping into the political ring. This entire dynamic sums up why satire is so powerful. It's not just about laughs, it's about holding up a mirror and reminding people that even the most influential figures are, at their core, just as vulnerable to being mocked as the rest of us. As for the Trumps, they seem determined to teach us that sometimes the best jokes write themselves. What comes next is anyone's guess, but one thing's clear: meme culture and late-night roasts aren't slowing down anytime soon. If there's one thing the Trumps keep proving, it's that trying to control the narrative only makes the joke funnier. Donald Jr.'s police stunt over Kimmel's monologue turned what could have been a fleeting joke into a roaring laugh that refuses to die. It's a perfect example of how satire works. It's not just about laughs, it's about cutting through the noise. And if humor is a crime, then guess what? We're all guilty, because every tweet, every meme, every punchline chips away at their carefully guarded image. What's next? Who knows? But the internet's already sharpening its jokes. Stay ready.